I heard Deepak Chopra once say that men have somewhere around 60,000 thoughts in about 8 hours, and women have about 80,000 thoughts in that same amount of span. Emotions generate a lot of emotions.
So women are basically winning.
They're smarter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Teacher's like, okay, everybody, all right. Pop quiz time. We're going to do the vocabulary to it. And I just yell out, wait, I got to make my cheat sheet.
I like to joke that I make my living throwing away dead people's sex toys.
I can guarantee you there is nothing you have felt that I haven't felt.
Yeah, and I am a formerly miserable person.
If people don't know how you are, they cannot help you.
Anxiety is the rattling of the lid on the pot of boiling water.
Everything's connected, like me letting go of the past, me not hanging on to my anger, me like trying to become a present being.
You're not in your peak dieting phase now.
I mean, I was only in it for like a quick 6 minutes on a car ride once because I was in between.
Can we stop for snacks?
Yeah, I was equidistant between two fast food places.
So that if I'm in a situation with like my older daughter and she says something hurtful to me, like you're wearing a lot of statement jewelry right now.
In the very, very niche world of American ghost towning, my dad is a minor celebrity.
Well, we have 50% of the countries in dire poverty is in homelessness. You know, LA is
50% of the country is in homelessness. That seems like not a correct statistic. My name is Sean Conroy, and this is Sean Conroy Gets Happier. I guess we'll see what happens. It's aspirational. I'm sitting here looking out at Griffith Observatory from my fortress of solitude high in the Hollywood Hills, day 17 or 18 of my quarantine, and I am not sure that I'm handling all this properly. I've been watching way too much news, mostly CNN and Fox, a little bit of MSNBC, which I did before all of this because things were already pretty fucked up, but now they're worse. I know I should stop watching so much, but sometimes I can't. I check Twitter in case the news missed anything. I check Facebook in case I have any friends. I check email in case I have any old-timey friends. Then, when I'm finished, it immediately occurs to me, what if something has changed? So I do it all again. I've been cooking for myself quite a bit. A lot of squash and zucchini, more squash and zucchini in the last 2.5 weeks than I have eaten in probably my entire life, and that is an exaggeration. In fact, I went to the supermarket this week. I parked my car, I got out, and as I was crossing the parking lot right in front of the store to wait online, there was a line outside the supermarket. That is good. Everybody was very consciously standing at least 4.5 feet apart because people are bad at estimation. So I'm crossing right in front of the store, and there's a car coming through the parking lot driving past the store. I start to cross in front of him, and the driver, well, you know what he did. He sped up and swerved toward the curb to get around me. Zipped right by. There was no squealing of tires, but it was close. That feels like a weird move in the parking lot anytime. Like all you're doing is going to a stationary spot. It's not like you're merging or I don't know what else you speed up to do. I'm just saying the parking lot speed up is odd. But also, we are in an apocalypse right now. I guess because there was a line of people in surgical masks waiting outside the supermarket, it just heightened the absurdity of it so much. And I started to laugh and shake my head. And as I did that, I accidentally locked eyes with the woman at the back of the line who I was moving to stand behind. And we both sort of chuckled to ourselves between ourselves. We ourselves chuckled with ourselves, if you know what I mean. We were with each other, really. We shared a moment. It was one of those things that happens sometimes in real life, but it felt like a specific thing. Then I lined up behind her, shooting to stand 6 feet away, but probably only hitting 4.5, because what can I say? I am fucking human. Then another guy came walking through the parking lot towards us. I would say he was, I don't know, maybe 10 years older than I am, maybe less than that. The woman in front of me, who I had just shared a laugh with, and she was about the same amount younger than I am as this guy was older than I am. She was very attractive, by the way, Joe Wagner, if you're listening. She turned and looked at me for a second and then looked at him, and she clearly did some calculating in her mind. And then she said, "You can go in front of me if you want, sir." She invited this guy who came along after both of us to cut in front of both of us. Now, in ordinary times, I would have said no frontsies, no backsies. But these are not ordinary times. I was so relieved that in her estimation, I wasn't enfeebled enough to be given frontsies. Also, because I'm trying to be more positive in conjunction with this podcast, let us remember this. No matter what happens, and however a terrible, terrible time this is for so many people, this is the greatest thing that has ever happened to the Tiger King. Have you heard of him? My guest this week is Rajshree Patel, who has dedicated her life to helping people get happier. She wrote a book called The Power of Vital Force: Fuel Your Energy, Purpose, and Performance with Ancient Secrets of Breath and Meditation. We talked a lot about breath and breathing, but before we got into that, I wanted to ask her about mindfulness, what it means, what it is, how to achieve it. It seems simple enough to ask that, but because I'm a man of many words, I came up with about a 47-paragraph version of that question to ask her to get us started, which Lauren, in her infinite wisdom, has mercifully edited from what you are about to hear. Here is Rajshree.
You said quite a lot. So most of us have this notion of a mind that's full, as in loaded with constant chatter and noise and static and judgment and so on and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
Mindfulness is really something, what we talk about, mind being full, overloaded with static thoughts, analysis, self-judgment, deprecation, criticism, so on and so forth.
Bills, happenings in the news.
Exactly. Things that have already happened, may not happen, might happen, it's all in there. And it's just this constant barrage of thinking.
Right.
And so the notion of mindfulness as a practice, what Buddhism has been speaking about as a state of awareness, is how do we reduce those thoughts and that noise in the mind. So that's the first thing to really understand. Mindfulness as a noun, as a practice, is a method in lowering, reducing the internal dialogue that goes on in our life.
Mm-hmm.
And in the West, mindfulness came into, the U.S. and so on and so forth, maybe about 50, 60 years ago, as a practice, because a few people from America and so forth went to monasteries in the Far East. They spent 3 months, 6 months, whatever amount of time, and picked a tiny piece of an entire system that was intended for monks to be more present, more alert, more aware. And that we call mindfulness in the West.
Okay.
It's become a noun rather than an adjective describing our inner state of being present, alert, aware, if you will, in the now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And the argument that I have to make is that technique may have been valuable 50, 60 years ago, but today we're so plugged in with our cell phones and our computers, and there's no morning, there's no evening, there's no weekend. We're just on all the time.
It's like we all live in Vegas.
Exactly. We're on all the time. And so as a result, the existing practice of mindfulness, the way we understand it in the West, isn't working because it's building more frontal cortex. What do I mean by that? More rational, logical, decision-making control, but pushing aside what we really need to deal with, which is our emotional, our amygdala, our unconscious mind, which is constantly triggering the noise. And so what I'm arguing for is, yes, mindfulness has a lot of benefit. It enhances gray matter, decision-making control, which is valuable, but we need something more than that. And I'm saying when we enhance our energy, our vital force, then we naturally calm down not just the surface thinking, but also the deeper layers of our mind, which we've forgotten about, which we're not conscious of. And there are a lot of things we're not conscious of, and some things we can pull. Like if I ask you, hey, Sean, what did you have for dinner, or what high school did you go to? You can easily retrieve it.
Right. I know both of those things.
Exactly.
Right off the top of my head, I can tell you both.
But if I ask you what happened when you were 5 and your 6th birthday, you have to really dig, and you may not even remember, or you'll remember inaccurately. And unfortunately, our mind is hardwired with a negative bias, which means we remember the negative things far more than the positive. 10 amazing things, 1 not so amazing thing, 10 compliments, 1 insult, 10 years of a life together, 1 bad year, we call it a divorce. Everything falls apart because negativity sticks to us more. And the simplest solution to managing our mind that is full or emotions that are negative is to enhance, up-level your level of life force, vital force, and you naturally reduce thinking, and you optimize your thinking, and you feel more positive, optimistic.
Okay, so let me see if I'm understanding this correctly. The way that people have talked about mindfulness here in the West for a while is to make a conscious decision to push things out, to reduce, as you said, reduce the noise in your head.
Yes.
And you're saying there's a different way to go about it, which is not to push things away, but to increase this particular vital force, which will, by nature, reduce those other things without making a conscious decision to do that. Is that?
Yes. So if I explain a little bit further, mindfulness, the way we understand it in the West, is asking us to monitor, label, and observe our own thoughts, our emotions, and our actions.
Right.
So the problem is, if we could already be so aware, another word for mindful, we wouldn't need the technique in the first place.
Right.
Most people aren't aware of their thoughts or their emotions till it's too late. You know, until we start to show the emotion, we don't even often realize we're not feeling well. Or thoughts have taken over into some action, then we realize, oh my God, this is going on. We have, I heard Deepak Chopra once say, that men have somewhere around 60,000 thoughts in about 8 hours, and women have about 80,000 thoughts in that same amount of span. Emotions generate a lot of emotions.
So women are basically winning.
They're smarter.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're smarter. And the emotions generate a lot of intelligent thought. The real problem with the 60 or the 80,000 thoughts is not that we have them. It's that they're reruns. It's the same old thinking. It just appears different. If I really ask anybody who's listening, if we ask ourselves, how many thoughts do you really remember from yesterday? It's hardly 5 or 10. And it's the same 5 or 10.
Mine were about
20?
what I had for dinner and where I went to high school.
2.
Yeah.
2. Lucky you. See, you don't need mindfulness. You're already there.
Right.
But we have a lot of thoughts. And unfortunately, the practice of mindfulness today is asking people to be aware of them. And you know how many we're aware of? Hardly 8 or 10 or 25. If you're very fortunate, 100. And they're the same thoughts.
And I would guess that most people, I could be wrong about this, and maybe I'm just projecting my own issues on people, but the people who are aware of those things, most of those thoughts are probably negative.
They are. Because, as I said, we're hardwired with a negative bias. We don't really sit around saying, oh my God, I'm so happy, and I need to talk to my friends because I'm so happy, and I need to go to a therapy session because I'm so happy. No. What you talk about is what didn't work with your friends and family and the therapist. It's negative thoughts that are disturbing us. And there's a faster, easier, simpler way to flip our perception, to change the thoughts and optimize our body, our mind, therefore our performance, what we do in life.
And this is by increasing
vital force.
Vital force.
Yeah. So there's a lot of different ways to increase vital force. First, let's just understand vital force. We're not talking about energy as in coffee or sugar.
That reminds me, I need to take a sip of my coffee.
Does it go on all the time?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I drink a lot of coffee.
It gives energy.
Yeah.
Right? However, it isn't the energy that we're talking about. When we say vital force, it's the energy that's innate to us, that we're born with. If you look at a child, they have an enormous amount of vitality, life force, or energy. They don't take coffee. They're not yet on sugar. It's mother's milk or mashed carrot and potato for such a long period of time. But notice their power. A little gurgle in a room fills the entire house. They scream, it fills the whole house. All the adults come running.
They won't stop kicking the back of my chair when they're sitting behind me on the airplane.
But that's right. Yeah. There's a lot of energy. And there's no coffee, as I said. There's no sugar. It's not adrenals, right? Mm-hmm. Which is what most adults are driven through. Push our way through. It's the stress response that was intended for emergency. And instead of for emergency, we use it on a daily basis as our nourishment, if you will, quote unquote, to get through our day.
Totally. Coffee is exactly that for me. It's like if I'm not 100%, I'm like, I should just have a cup of coffee and I'll get through this.
Correct. And you'll get through it. Mm-hmm. But in the long run, I think you'll agree that it creates an impact either in your sleep or your digestive system. It repletes your minerals from your body. There are lots of impact of it. Nothing right, nothing wrong about it, but there's a better way, is what we're saying. Mm-hmm. And so vital force is our innate energy. We're surrounded in it. It's in us. We just haven't figured out how to tap into it.
Right.
And you need that energy for your body to function, for your mind to function well, for your emotions to be positive. It's your physical, emotional, sexual, any piece of movement required in your life requires energy, vital force. And so 4 main ways to tap into it. There are lots.
Okay.
But let's just talk about 4 main ways. 2 I think everybody knows about: food and sleep. Right? Food gives you minerals and carbohydrates and protein and good fats and so on and so forth, and that gives you caloric energy. But it also gives you what we're talking about, life energy. So a simple way to think about it is an apple or a bunch of a spinach. For some time, it's very vibrant. It's alive. And a few days later, it's what we call wilted, or that life energy is gone, although some degree of sugars and carbohydrates may still be there in that apple.
And it's still in my crisper drawer, and I just forgot about
Correct.
it. And then all of a sudden I open the drawer, and there's just rotting spinach in
Exactly. So the life force is gone, and as a result, all the other nutrients are also gone. So food is, yes, of course, nutrition, but it's also energy, not caloric, innate source of energy. We've not realized it. And fruits, vegetables, herbs, sprouts, hollowed out vegetables, pumpkins, they have, in addition to whatever it offers nutritionally, a lot of energy. Now with food, it's not as much as you eat, that much energy you get, because if you eat the wrong food at the wrong time, wrong amount, you get dull and groggy and heavy, right? Mm-hmm. We know that. Too much, too little.
Thanksgiving is coming up. And
Correct.
That's the story of the day, right?
So we eat and sleep, and then we get up and eat and sleep. And you sleep because it wiped you out at some level from too much eating, right? The other thing is sleep. Unfortunately, look at the pharmaceutical industry. Most adults are not sleeping. It's billions of dollar industry, right? Something that was natural, something we did as kids without thinking about it. And because we weren't thinking, we slept deeply at level 5, level 4. And as adults, we don't hardly sleep. If I ask a question, a room full of people, let's say 1,000 people.
Big room.
Yeah. When I give lectures, it will be that many. And I do ask, and I say, okay, how many of you feel like you went to sleep, 7 or 8 hours went by, and you feel like you didn't sleep, or you're not sure if you were thinking, or you woke up more tired, 80% of the room raises their hand.
Mm-hmm.
Because the whole night, our mind was running. We were unable to, quote, shut it off.
It didn't turn off when we went to sleep.
That's right. Or the dimmer didn't go down. Even if it didn't fully turn off, it didn't lower. The activity remained high. And so we feel like we were thinking all night, and therefore we're more wiped out in the morning than when we started our sleep cycle. So sleep
Not a good way to get through the day.
No.
Luckily, there's coffee.
See, but is it working for you? To some degree, right? And how much coffee can you drink in the end?
Right. A lot.
5 cups?
But not all of it.
No, not all of it. So sleep is one of those things that gives us a lot of energy, but unfortunately, most people aren't sleeping well. Their mind is always running. And it's the right amount of sleep, and it's the one thing we sacrifice very quickly. Though we know the more effective you want to be, more efficient you want to be, more you want to produce, better you want to perform, the more sleep you need to make sure you don't sacrifice. But that's unfortunately not what we do. Second source of life force or vital force. Third is breathing. Now, okay.
You stop that, you have no life force.
You have nothing.
No.
You have nothing. And it's a strange thing because I started talking about breathing all the way back in 1989 in Los Angeles. You know, I was a prosecutor, and suddenly I came across Rajshree. He's a spiritual master from India. Ravi Shankar is the full name. I thought I was going to a music concert. I don't know if you've heard, there was a sitarist at that time, very famous. Thinking I'm going to a sitar concert.
Probably the most famous sitarist.
Yes. Thinking that's where I'm going, I landed up in a spiritual program, breathing. And against my better judgment, I decided to stay. I was sort of curious. Well, okay, I'm here. And every time he mentioned the idea of breathing as a way to enhance performance, calm down your mind, sleep better, connect more with people, I kind of rolled my eyes, left brain, full lawyer, thinking, come on, breathing? Because it's really like we've been breathing the first act of our life, and it'll be the last act of our life. So it's like going to Alaska and talking about snow and selling snow to Eskimos. Who wants that, right? That too, back in 89 when nobody had heard of yoga or meditation, there wasn't a lot of focus on positive lifestyle.
There was aerobics.
Exactly.
And racquetball.
Yeah, and there was Jane Fonda, who did a little bit of yoga, I think.
Maybe.
Yeah. I think she had a VHS, like a video out.
I know she supported the Vietnamese during the war.
So anyway, there was really no conversation about this, and people would boo-poo it and move it away. But today we know neuroscience has proven a lot around meditation and mindfulness, meaning awareness, calming the system down, practicing gratitude, positive thinking, and so on and so forth as a way to up-level everything in our life. And breathing is one of the fastest, simplest, easiest way to actually do all those things, because our breathing is connected to our emotions. It's connected to our thoughts. It's connected with how we perceive, how we look out of our eyes. Just nobody really knows about it. The secrets of the breath are just that, secrets. And so breath is a third way to really energize. And the fourth is what we could call meditation, or I like to say happy, joyful, peaceful state of mind. The happier you are, the more energetic you are.
That's what I'm going for.
Well, the more energetic you are, the happier you are. So that's what we're talking about. How do we up level so we get more of what we want?
So those 4 things, you said there's lots of other things you can do, but those 4 are sort of the first level of leveling up.
They're the fastest and the 4 main sources of energy.
And if you do those things, you will have more vital force, and you will be happier.
When you're tired, are you more willing to collaborate or less willing?
Less.
When you're tired, do you find small things disturb you more or less?
Small things always disturb me.
But when you're tired?
More.
When you're tired, do you complain more or are you more optimistic?
I am so rarely optimistic, but probably you're right. It's worse when I'm tired.
When we're tired, we really do see the glass half empty. You know, the mind is not positive. It's negative oftentimes. And body, immune system, everything goes down. The reverse is true. When you have a lot of energy, when you feel vibrant, alive, you went to the ocean, you were in nature, you had 4 days off, you rested well, you wake up in the morning, life is still the same, but you look out of your eyes differently. You see a problem versus a challenge. That's the difference. You say, it doesn't matter. We're going to get through it. The traffic doesn't bother you the same way. You drive, maybe you listen to a podcast, Sean, right? And you move on. But when you're tired, then everything becomes challenging. So what we're saying is through these 4 main sources, you up-level energy to up-level your joy, your happiness, your fulfillment, your performance. Every single thing is energy. This is basic physics. We know that. Everything requires energy. We know that. Energy, by simple definition, is the ability to move. If you want to move your body, you need energy. If you notice, when you're tired, you don't sleep well because you don't have enough energy. Even to sleep, you need some energy to begin with.
That
right?
seems like a bad cycle to get into.
Well, most people are running on empty, unfortunately. Look, if your cell phone shows the 10% battery line, what's the first thing you think of doing?
Calling my mother.
No,
I'm kidding. No.
You say, I can't call my mother.
Yeah,
You'll actually
charge it up.
Exactly. You want to plug your phone in or close some of the extra apps.
Right.
Right? One of the two
That never
things.
occurs to me, by the way.
Well,
I never think. I always, whenever I close one app, I realize I have like 50 open that I haven't closed. So.
All right, but that's what's going on in our life, actually. Our brain, if you think about it, is our hard drive. How many files are open? How many different apps are open? You and I are talking. People are listening. But it would take nothing for me to remind you of something that happened a year ago, 6 months ago, 6 days ago. Those files are open in the background.
Right.
Just like on a computer or just like on a cell phone. The moment you close one, you go, oh my God.
Why are these all open?
I don't need them.
Right.
But we carry them around in our head. We don't need them. They're open and they're taking energy. If there's 1,000 files open on your computer or 50, it's taking energy.
Right.
Right? It's slowing down the computer. It's slowing down how effectively you engage with the present moment, the file that's in front of you.
You can't focus on one thing.
Exactly. The same thing's going on with our brain, our hard drive. There are many, many files open from the past, about the past, and concern about the future. And whatever we're looking at now, we're not focused on. And those files in the background are taking away our power, our potential, our energy, our abilities, skills, and talents. We have a lot of it. Some of us use it and some of us wait. Why do we wait? When we're low on energy, we tend to wait even more than otherwise. Procrastination can be really handled through up-leveling energy. If you have energy, you won't procrastinate. You get up and you get into action. So
that would be nice. That would be a nice change for me.
More coffee for you.
Yeah.
Right. But it's a simple equation that we haven't ever figured out. We know to move anything, positively or negatively, you need energy. And we don't know what to do with it. And that's what this book is filled with. If you go, it guides you through how our mind functions. It's actually the biggest energy hog there is our thinking faculty. And then it gives you tools and tips on how to increase the energy. Number one, it's understanding. Mind is constantly vacillating in the past and future. It's filled with lots of thoughts that are not necessary. And we need to figure out a way to close the tabs on the computer. And your breath is one of the simplest way. Meditation, another way. Now, there are lots of apps out there, right? On meditation, mind, Headspace and Calm.
Calm is one I've heard of.
Yeah, and God knows, there's just so many. And of course, we're in a consumer world. and we tend to customize and over customize everything. If you talk to the Buddha or anybody else out of India on meditation, they didn't need thousands of different meditations for every tiny little thing in life.
That guy knew what he was doing.
Yeah, they knew what he was doing. This is, now you have technology and you have consumerism and customizing and figuring out a lifestyle to sell
Buddha didn't have
a
apps.
product. Well, he didn't need them.
No.
He had himself, and he had a way to go inward to calm his system down. And breath is one easy way. And it's not focusing on breath. It's not concentrating on the breath. It isn't having to be aware or monitoring breath, which is what mindfulness in the West is asking for. It's using the breath as an exercise, like a dumbbell. If you want to build a bicep, you lift the dumbbell up and down. The more you lift it, the stronger the muscle, right?
Right.
Very simple. And I'm asking people to do the same. Use the breath as an exercise. No need to empty the mind. No need to focus. No need to concentrate. No need to monitor, observe, nothing. Just use it as an exercise. Elongate your breath in and out, and you will naturally move from sympathetic stress response, fear, freeze, and flight, to parasympathetic rest, relax, calm response. It's a physiological response, right? When we're born, we breathe fully.
Hopefully.
Right? When you're born, the first thing that happens is you're going to let out a cry.
If the doctor has to smack you sometimes.
Right, because we want the breath to go in fully. The lungs, if they don't expand, well, then you're not in the world anymore, right? It's just an empty shell, a body. So breathing, it's a science. The lower, longer, deeper, fuller the breath, the more parasympathetic, meaning rest, relaxation, efficient response we have triggered. The shorter the breath, and that's what most people do. When we're stressed out, we hold our breath. We actually don't breathe. People have to
Which just makes it worse.
Exactly. Exactly. It makes it worse. People have to remind you, right? Come on, breathe, relax. Because the breath does trigger a relaxation response. So number one tip about breathing that anybody can do, and it's something I do daily, first thing in the morning and last thing before bed, I consciously elongate my breath, because during the day, running around, stressed out with whatever has to be or isn't, I'm going to reduce my breathing capacity, which then is going to, as you said, make things worse, make you more stressed.
And you're saying you just elongate your breath, and you're not saying you got to do it 10 times, you got to do it 5 times, you got to do it this many times. It's a thing you do for a while and then feel better.
I think that, the human mind likes to have a fixed thing.
Right.
And here's a tip.
Rules. Everybody wants rules.
Everybody loves rules. So I say first thing in the morning, hit your snooze button, doesn't matter. Go on your back or sit up and lean against your headboard and do 10 long breaths. The operative word is long. Breath in and breath out. What does long mean? You take a long breath as much as you can. You breathe in. And then you push it a little bit. Means breathing a little bit longer. Our lungs are elastic in nature. There's a lot of room. Most people use barely 30% of their capacity, and 80-90% of our emotional, physical toxins go out on the exhale. So first thing, elongate the breath. Increase your lung capacity. So breathe in as long as you can, and then breathe a little more. Push it. It'll feel tight. It might feel uncomfortable for you the first time you do it. And do 10 such breaths. 2 things will happen. You energize. You'll see that you'll start to want to get out of bed, not dragging yourself out of bed, but a sense like, let's go. The day is ahead of me.
Right.
And you close some of the tabs, the files that we spoke about earlier that were open at night. Because when you're sleeping, you're processing. We enter sleep with I should have, I would have, I could have, and you open a lot of history. Just like a computer anticipates based on your search, What we're thinking about when we go to sleep, we anticipate, and our brain pulls up old files. And that is sucking us dry. It's taking energy. And so first thing in the morning, because we don't complete our cycle, I'm saying those long breaths in and out will close the old files. So you start your day out right. Number one.
So you don't get out of bed going, I shouldn't, I didn't, I wouldn't.
You won't.
Right.
You won't. If you do those 10 breaths, there is naturally a more centered outlook.
This also makes me think I want to get a headboard. I don't have one right now, so.
When I'm in a stressful situation, when I have a lot going on, I deliberately make sure that I'm extending my breath because it gets shorter and shorter. So perhaps before I walk into a meeting, perhaps before, if I see I'm going to get stuck in traffic or I'm running late or anything that's going on, I will fall back onto my breath because, again, it's pure science. A lot of research has been done around it. There are lots of tools and tips there, and it directly changes how you think, how you feel, and how you act. And it's something anyone can do. Like I said, it's like lifting a dumbbell. Mm-hmm. Pick it up, put it down. You don't need to focus. You don't need to concentrate, and you change your life.
And I have found if I lift the 5-pound dumbbell long enough, I can eventually move up to the 6-pound dumbbell.
That's right.
I get stronger. How can people find you on social media?
So just go to B-Y, Rajshree, my first name, Rajshree. It's the same for, Facebook or Twitter or anything, by Rajshree. And can also go to thepowerofvitalforce.com, the website, and you'll see some free content.
Okay, last question.
Please.
We have a playlist.
Uh-huh.
The Gets Happier playlist that we have on Spotify.
Yeah.
Can you recommend one song that makes you happier when you hear it? It could be anything that you...
Well, what pops in my head in this moment, it's an old song, Aretha Franklin. I think it's called Freeway of Love.
Yes.
Pink Cadillac. Mm-hmm. I don't know why, but just the rhythm and her roaring voice.
It's a very empowering song.
Yes, it is. Mm-hmm. Very empowering. So that's one of the things that really gets me going in the morning.
That's perfect.
So there you have it. Breathe. It helps. I'm not kidding. And now, I, for one, am going to go riding on a freeway of love in my pink Cadillac with the crushed velvet seats past Yoshimi, who is battling the pink robots. She looks great, by the way, because she's wearing pink, and who isn't pretty in pink? Eventually, I'll get to my little pink house, where if I'm lucky, I'll drink a drink to Lily the Pink. The pink, the savior of the human race. I hope. The executive producer of Sean Conroy Gets Happier is Lauren Dunitz. Our field producer is Pete Galamaga. The show is recorded at All Things Comedy Studios in Burbank, California, and in my office in the Fortress of Solitude, high in the Hollywood Hills. Our sound engineer is Aaron Brungart, who also edits the videos for the show and plays right field. Special thanks to our guest, Rajshree Patel. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Sean Conroy. You can also join the Sean Conroy Gets Happier Facebook group. Find that at facebook.com. You'll figure it out.